Well, Sue, thank you so much for helping my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
I'm Sue Klinke, and I have had a really diverse career. I started out in IT. Actually, I started out as a bartender waitress. Then I went into IT. And then I became a school teacher, back to IT, then a librarian, and now I am retired, loving it.
So you're not a librarian at the moment.
No, I retired in 2021, so almost 2 years ago.
Okay, so that would be about a year after the pandemic started then.
Yes, it was a year after that. Yeah.
Was that the thing that really convinced you to retire, or?
No, our library went through a restructuring, and I totally understand why they did what they did. We had diverse, or we had broader job responsibilities, and then they narrowed things down so people became experts in certain areas. And I liked the broader responsibilities where I did a lot of things. And when I was told I was only doing one little thing, I thought, I think it's time to retire. Sue doesn't like to do just one thing.
I have trouble imagining you just leisurely sitting about. So I imagine you must have a lot of hobbies.
I have a ton of hobbies. I always joke that there hasn't been a hobby that I've met that I haven't liked. So my main hobbies are stained glass. I knit. I lots of reading. I volunteer. I'm a volunteer naturalist for a state park here in Colorado. So I do guided tours for people about the animals because I like animals. So and so many more. I mean, there are so many hobbies. Yeah, you're right.
So what do you like to read?
I am big in historical fiction or mysteries, thrillers, but historical fiction because you learn something and they present it in a way that is easy to understand and easy to read. I think I would have liked history more in school if we had done more historical reading rather than just, textbook reading.
And so whenever you say historical fiction, you don't mean like alternate histories. You mean like real histories with kind of made up characters to help you understand the history that actually happened.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and I mean, there's so many things that happened that I had no idea happened, and they're presented in a way, in a fictional, I mean, they're historically correct, but with fictional characters. So, I mean, the Spanish flu pandemic that was happened right about the time of World War One. I read a really interesting book, and it was interesting because the same issues that they had about the vaccine and exposure and wearing masks were the same things that we experienced. So that was, it's historical. It happened before.
Is there a particular book that you would recommend?
So many. No, and I'm terrible with titles. I just finished, what did I just finish? A really good book about yeah, I'm terrible with titles, but I'm great at discussing the subject of the book. So, but yeah, any historical fiction. I'm sorry, I don't have.
No, no worries. Um, well, I wanted to ask you about something in the future,
Okay,
which was kind of in the past, and that is, did you know that NASA is planning to send astronauts back to the moon?
I did. After I read your email, I did some research to learn more about it and why they're doing it. And yeah, I did know that.
Um, would it surprise you that most of the people I talk to at like coffee shops and at the mall and the people that get the lucky seat next to me on the plane don't know that we're going back to the moon?
No, it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me. I know it because I'm a bit of a science nerd. I like to keep up with what's going on. And just my husband and I watch a lot of science kind of shows. So both history and like science. And we also like sci-fi. We're big Star Trek fans.
I love Star Trek, especially like the Next Generation. That's kind of like what I grew up with, and
Yeah.
I remember at the time that even non-Trekkies were familiar with it and kind of the vision that it presented. And it seems like today we don't have anything that kind of fills that same role.
Right. Right. Yeah. And really don't. We watch reruns That's all we watch, obviously. So yeah.
Um, did you see Picard by chance?
No, I did not. I have not seen that. I've got a great Picard story. I went to London once and saw Picard in a play. The play was very different than his role as the captain, and I saw him in a very dark story. So it was really interesting. He was great as a theater actor.
Yeah, I saw some clips from Macbeth where he's like, and it's like set in a modern time, but word for word, it's
Yeah,
the Shakespeare. It was really
yeah,
kind of amazing how he did that.
yeah. He's really a really good actor. It was really fun to see him in that role. He got on stage and I'm like, look who it is.
Um, so what do you think about us going back to the moon?
It's funny because the things that are important to me is education, our environment, and I wrote it down here: education, clean energy, and an EPA. And I looked at how much the government is spending on each of these, and I mean it's not NASA spending 25.4 billion, and so that's not a whole lot. But I sort of feel like we have so many problems here on our Earth, especially with energy and people who don't believe in climate change. And I sort of wish we would use the money for that. Not that I have anything against the space program, and this is just my opinion.
Have you, so Jeff Bezos has a space company.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's called Blue Origin, and
Uh-huh.
it's been around for about 2 decades. But Jeff Bezos, about 4 years ago, gave a talk about why he founded it and kind of like his vision. And he wants to be able to create kind of the mechanism that allows for us to move all those earth harming activities like energy production, mining, manufacturing, heavy industry off of the earth to kind of protect the earth. And I was just wondering what you thought about that take on space.
Well, it's an interesting take, but if we moved it to the moon, what impact would it have on the moon then, right? I think that we have to always research, yeah, what we do here and how it's harming our planet. If we take it to the moon, what's going to happen there, right? If we take it to space, I don't know how that could happen, but that would be interesting. I think it would be good to do that. But I think that our earlier generations did not take into consideration the impact of what they did to our environment. And our generation and really future generations are going to feel the impact of it. I've read some really good books about climate change, and I'm glad I'm not going to be here. But I do think it's a good concept, as long as
Yeah.
we research what it would have on that environment.
Well, I mean, that's a good question. So as far as we know, there's no life on the moon. Um,
Right,
but we do know there's life down here on Earth.
right.
And so the question is, whatever we do to the moon, um, since it's not actually hurting life, isn't that better than doing those same activities down here where it does hurt life?
It's true, but is there anything that it would do to the distance between us and the moon and Earth, and because the moon impacts tidal and a lot of other things. So as long as it doesn't impact the change in its rotation around the Earth, and I know the moon is moving out. It's not leaving our orbit, but it's moving. But yeah, I think it would be good if we could do that. I think that's not a bad thing. I just I feel like sometimes we as humans don't do enough research.
Well, it's like sometimes you don't know until you try, right? It's just,
Right,
but you have to be able to be willing to course correct based upon that new information. That's the part that
right.
I think we're really bad at.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we're bad. And I also think that because we have so many people who don't believe that there's climate change and that the environment has impacted it. That's the other thing, is that are you going to have people who go to the moon and move manufacturing there, or some of the energy production? Are they going to stay open-minded to do course correction? That's the other fear I would have. But yeah, I think it's a good concept. I think it's a very good concept.
Because, you know, it's kind of interesting to think about the amount of energy the sun actually puts out.
Hmm.
Um, so one exercise that I like to think about is if you constructed a sphere around the sun, you know, like mentally, not physically, though maybe at some point, who knows, around the sun that had the same, you know, circumference as Earth's orbit, and you looked at the surface area of that sphere, that
Right?
would represent like the total output of the sun. And comparing that to like the cross-sectional area of the Earth is what proportion of the sun's falls energy falls on the Earth that literally has powered everything. You know, every
Right.
you know, storm, every plant growing, every bit of oil that was ever produced, and the proportion between that, I think, is around like 1 to 700 billion. You know, so there's
Hmm.
literally, you know, like almost 700 billion times more energy that the sun outputs than has ever fallen on Earth. You know, it's just
Right.
like
That makes sense.
an enormous amount. You know, and one thing that Blue Origin just recently announced was they've been able to take uh, lunar regolith simulant. So this is looking at what we brought back from Apollo. We've created other samples that chemically and minerally replicate that, and out of that, they've been able to produce some solar panels. So it's
Oh,
kind of like the idea is that maybe you could produce the solar panels on the moon, you know, put them in orbit around the sun, maybe use some of it as like orbiting data centers and manufacturing facilities and stuff like
yeah. I mean, we have solar panels on our house. We just moved out here, and we finally have a house that is situated such that we can take advantage of having solar panels, and we're very, very happy to do that. We've always, like, when I don't know if, can't remember the name of the electric company in the Houston area, but anyway, we've always put into alternative energy then, like the wind source. So anything to help reduce fossil fuels is a great thing.
that. Do you all have battery storage too, or? Um,
It goes into the way it works here is our electric company. The energy we're produced that we don't use gets redirected to the electric company, and then we get credit for it. So like right now in the winter, we don't benefit as much as we will in the summer, because where we live, there's not that many cloudy days. So even in the winter, it's not bad. We get snow. Right now, we get way too much snow. But it's going to snow again on Thursday, so
how do you keep the solar panels free from the snow?
it just melts. There's nothing we can do.
Okay, and I
Yeah.
guess they're a little bit warmer, maybe, and it melts, or
Yeah, when it gets warmer, it melts. I mean, around where we live, it's yesterday was 60.
okay.
So it's one of these things that it's not like we have cold days every day. We don't live in Wyoming where they're like negative. So in a couple of days it'll be really cold, and then Friday it could be 70.
I lived
So
in New Hampshire from 2014 to 2015, and that winter was brutal. You know, the
yeah,
snow would fall, and it literally stayed there for months, and it's like you
yeah.
have no place to put it.
Yeah, and it's not like that here. It falls and then it melts like 2 days later. It's all gone, all gone. So great.
Um, Whenever you think about the future of humanity, say like 200 years out, you mentioned climate change, and you're glad you don't live through it. But I mean, what do you imagine 200 years being like?
Well, I'm hoping that, like, I love your words, course correction. I'm honestly hoping that we could do some course correction. If we could, I could see it as the earth being a good place still. But if we don't, I feel like water production or is going to be the biggest issue, because with climate change, there's a lot of evaporation that's occurring. And that's going to cause a lot of problems for humanity. And I think that's going to cause a lot of conflict. Um, so I see in 200 years, if we don't do anything, that there's going to be conflict with people, other nations for resources that are needed.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting about water because we actually have plenty of water. It's just we don't have plenty of clean water.
Right. Right. And I know we can do desalination, but what is that going to do to the ocean if we suddenly start taking water away from the ocean? Although with climate change and the polar caps melting, it could help so that the cities don't end up underwater. I don't feel like it's a doomsday as like some of these shows show you, like New York City, all you see is the tips. I don't think that, but I do see that there are issues that I just was in Europe a couple of weeks ago, I came back last Thursday, and they haven't had a lot of snow. And that's been something that's been happening over time. They used to get a lot more snow. I can even see it. I go in February because I have my aunt has a birthday in February. February is not a good time to go to Hamburg. Um, but previously it snowed a lot. And the last few times I've gone to visit, there's been like no snow. So, and that's, I think, one of the things that we see higher temperatures.
Yeah, I know the winter here in Houston has been pretty much non-existent. I mean, today we were walking and I'm in shorts and t-shirt and
Yeah,
feeling hot, and it's not even March yet.
no, no. So, yeah, and I worry about that. It's like they have, I wish I could remember the name of the calendar. It's got a specific name, but it shows how many resources we consume in a year. So it's like, and it shows that right now we consume all the resources that we need by like July. And
Hmm.
so it's like we can't keep up with what we need. And it's a it's name of the calendar is good, but I don't recall it. And it just was an eye opener. It's not like we produce enough resources to sustain ourselves. And if we keep on the route we are, pretty soon it's going to be hard to feed everybody and have enough resources to live.
Yeah, I feel like we need to take like these big systems that are kind of running in the background that support us and kind of shrink them down to something that we could put in our house. I mean, at least like the water that comes to my house, it travels probably hundreds of miles between the time that you know, up until the point I use it and after I use it before it actually, gets recycled. Um, but I mean, like taking a shower, for example, most of that water is fairly clean. I was looking that there's like a Swedish company that has a shower that will actually filter that water, monitor its quality, and actually reuse it in the same shower. And you not only save the water, but you save the energy because the water only cooled, a few degrees, which you heat back up, as opposed to taking, room
Yeah.
temperature water and heating it up, 10, 20 degrees. Uh, and I thought, that's brilliant,
I know I see a lot. I think like when we're letting the shower water warm up, I'm like, is there a way you could capture that? Because I don't know about you, but I don't like to take cold showers. So I like the water to warm up. And can we capture that and then use it somewhere else? It feels like you should be able to do that. But yeah, but I
Yeah,
do think the space program has its benefits. And if we can use like the space station, I know they've done a lot of really good experiments out there that help with solving or helping with diseases. So I think there are benefits. I just, I worry about our Earth.
absolutely. If you could, would you take a trip to space?
No, I would not. My husband would, but I would not. I don't like to fly, even though I fly everywhere. So there's no way I'd take his trip to space. But my husband has said many times that he would love to ride in a rocket and go. And if he was younger, he would like to go to Mars. There's because I don't know about you, but I've seen the movie The Martian and read the book and loved it. But space travel to Mars is a long time.
It
So
is.
yeah. But yeah, I wouldn't want to do it because I don't like to fly.
Do you think your husband will get a chance to go to space in his lifetime?
I don't know. I think if he had the opportunity, he would. Yeah, I don't know. I know if he could, he would, but I don't know if he's going to have the opportunity. I feel like it's more available now. I think that there are a lot of other companies who will allow you to go to space if you pay a lot of money, but the prices have got to come down. Like it would be fun, I guess, to go up and then go around the Earth once and come back down.
Yeah, one of the reasons it's so expensive is a lot of the parts of the spacecraft are used only one time and have to be
Yeah,
rebuilt for every flight. Um,
yeah,
but SpaceX is working on a completely reusable rocket that can be launched multiple times per day. And they're talking about being able to use it for point to point Earth travel too. So you could go from Colorado to Germany in 30 minutes.
that would be fun. Yeah, that would be very convenient instead of a 10-hour journey.
They think they could be profitable at an equivalent first class airline ticket.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that would be good. I mean, I don't typically fly first class. Um, I say that because I did last year. I flew business to go to Africa, but yeah, normally I'm just in coach. Yeah, it would be cool. I don't know if I would do it. I never liked the idea of taking the Concorde and breaking the sound barrier. I've seen the Concorde when I used to fly a lot, and I saw them at British Airways had them and Air France, and I saw them at the airports there, and I thought they looked really cool. Still never wanted to fly one.
Yeah, I heard a joke one time about, they played a movie on the Concorde, but nobody could hear it.
Yeah. Right?
but
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen them take off, but only saw them parked at the gate, which I thought in itself was pretty cool.
well, that's awesome. Well, Sue, I really appreciate your time. I
Oh,
is there
yeah,
anything
thank you.
is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to?
Well, I think it's interesting what you're going to be doing. What kind of training do you go through?
So in mission control, there's a whole bunch of different disciplines, they call them, that are focused on different aspects of space flight.
Right.
So the group that I'm with is called Spartan, and it's a backronym, where you like start out with a really cool word and you try to figure out what the acronym should be. But it's
Yes.
like um, station power, articulation, and thermal analysis. So our group is responsible for the electrical power systems, the external thermal control systems, and all the things that move on the outside of the vehicle, not the robotics, but like the solar panels and radiators. So we have about a year of college-like experience with like lectures and tests and written tests and oral tests, and then we have about 6 months of sort of hands-on training where we're in kind of like a mock-up mission control with like software that we're controlling and instructors in another room that are going, I wonder how they'll handle this.
Yeah.
And we're trying to figure it out. And then once we get good enough like that, then we get certified, and then we do a shift in mission control, a number of shifts in mission control with a certified person sitting with us. And then at that point, we start working shifts.
And did you have to go back to school for any training to get this job, or does it just
The flight controller position is generally a first career for most people.
right?
So they most people go and do this directly out of college. So I'm kind of like ancient guy amongst a whole bunch of 20-year-olds.
Yeah. I have a philosophy, if you don't like what you do, you change it. So I think it's cool that you did it.
Yeah, it's been really good. I really,
Yeah.
and I mean, I like to think that the 2020s are going to be to space what the 1990s were to the internet. And I feel like I kind
Hmm.
of saw that play out. So I almost feel like this is kind of like seeing the same sort of trend play out, but in a different sector. So,
Well, very cool. Well, very cool. Well, I'm glad we got to chat. I mean, you got me researching stuff, so it was pretty interesting. You know, I was like, how much does NASA get from the government? How much does education? Because education is another thing that's important to me besides the climate. And I thought, yeah, so education and EPA get a lot of money, but not as
but
much as NASA.
not as much as NASA. Of course, the military gets like 700 billion.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, let's not even go there. We could be on the phone for a long time.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Sue, I hope someday you'll come visit Houston again and we could connect in person.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Nathan. Good luck to you, okay?
Thank you, Sue. Okay, bye bye.
Bye.